Welcome back to the podcast. Today we got a special guest, Jacob Bonus, and we're doing the topic of patience and the virtues. Welcome on, Jacob. Great to see you.
Howdy, guys. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I enjoy it.
I'm glad you're here. This is one I've really wanted to do. You're a great person for it. And when you told me patience, it made so much sense because I even remember like back to when you were telling me like your favorite quote and for your parking spot at St. V, like the Drew Joyce quote and all that stuff. And you're one of those people that everyone that knows you don't get angry quick. Like it takes a lot to get Jacob angry, which unfortunately I've done a few times. But
It's all right.
so what does patience mean to you? Just a general broad statement. What does that mean to you? And then what does it mean to you in the faith life as well?
So for myself, patience is really testing yourself of when you are able to find something that there might be a problem or something that you might need to fix and not hitting it on the nail immediately. You need to take a step back and you need to see, how is this going to affect the rest of my life? Now, in terms of faith, I think that's a really big, it's a broad term. Like it could mean like waiting for your time or waiting for God to call you to really call your vocation, or it could be something that's like, all right, I'm going to stay adamant in what I'm doing. I'm going to continue to push through. I'm going to continue to follow through with what God has already told me to do. Like whether that is like through a married life, whether that's even in a relationship like that's going on right now. It could be something that like could affect me now or could affect me way in the future.
Yeah. All of that. I think the big thing with I really like what you said about taking a step back. You know, we've talked about that. Jacob Dene, one of our favorite people, always says, you know, biggest thing is take a step back, because I know personally, like even this week, there was moments that I could necessarily get angry. It would be right for me by the world standards to get angry, to send that message or say that thing. But when you take that step back and you're like, okay, what good does this do? It might make me feel better for half a second and then make me feel worse a little bit later and make that person feel worse. Or do I just take the step back and realize and put myself on the back burner so that the fruits of it may be more positive. And I think that's not an easy thing to do. But when you do it, it's more satisfying than giving into the quote unquote temptation of saying what you want, doing your own will, really.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just came back from vacation a couple of days ago, and before coming to this, I was thinking about what I could talk about, and as we were driving back, we got stopped for about 2 hours on the freeway.
Oh,
It was completely unplanned. It was about 7 o'clock, and we all stopped. Like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's happening, but people are starting to get out of their cars. Some cars are even taking U-turns on the middle of the freeway. Like it was a very, very long time. And right about 8:30 or so, we get past to the point where we see what happened, and like it was like jaw dropping. It was terrifying. We saw this container truck on fire.
oh.
And the cab, or the thing that like drives the whatever, it was gone.
Oh my God.
We don't know what happened to it, so we don't know where the people were from driving it. So it really made like a new perspective on like, man, this felt like annoying, really, really annoying waiting for all that time. But it's like someone's life could be significantly altered because of this. Not like, oh, they just have to pay however much money to like fix something. No, like they could be severely injured and whatnot. So it was a very eye-opening moment, especially in that moment.
Yeah, I feel like we don't focus on the things that matter. Shout out Josiah Queen. But like when you're waiting on traffic or whatever, all you're thinking about at first is why, like, oh, I got slowed down because there's traffic, or I'm gonna be late. But there's people that could have died in there. Mm-hmm. Like, just being patient with yourself and being like seeing the world through God's eyes and noticing or praying for that person would be powerful. But instead we all look down on it almost and like, oh, makes my day bad because I'm gonna be late for work or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really impactful. Like as soon as you actually see it unfold, like
Yeah.
it was obviously annoying beforehand, but then as soon as we saw what happened, like all of our minds like almost the whole car ride trip, it was quiet.
Yeah.
It really was impactful.
Something else I'd like to add on to it is you may pray for something that you really want in that time, and if you don't receive it as like what time you want, that's when you fall into the temptation or sin that you just because you want that certain thing.
Yeah, everybody wants that instant gratification, but that's just not how it works. I mean, everybody who wants to get in shape works out how to get in shape fast, or like it's a process of doing things over and over again and being patient with yourself and your relationship with God to truly make a great connection with Him.
Yeah, and I also think, like, even with what Jacob said and what you said about prayers and whatever, sometimes the stuff that we pray for, God is already working on, and He has to work in other people's lives to get it to the point where He can help your life. So before your prayer can be answered, He has to help the other people to get them there. And that's a hard thing to understand. And the perspective that I've taken before, I know, like, I think people that are single, when they pray, it's like, or people that pray for their significant other, even when they haven't even met them yet, it's like, I pray that they're getting to where they need to be so we can meet. But like, that's such a significant prayer because it realizes it takes the focus off of you of like, okay, I know in this moment, if there's a possibility that if we met in this exact moment, we wouldn't be good together. But if we meet on God's timing, if it's His will, and He's done everything in their life that He's needed to do for us to meet, then it will be good. And I think that's hard to swallow because everyone wants it in that moment right now. And it's not always, it can't always be like that. And the thing is, we're better off when it's not like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think after what you said, Nick, I think our definition needs a little update. I think it's more of like patience is more of like an understanding of knowing when to act rather than like waiting to act. Just kind of knowing when the moment is right for yourself. Yeah. And right when God's time is when it's, especially when it's like, okay, now I need to act because God's telling me or He's pushing me in a certain direction. It's like, this is what He plans for me, not necessarily what I plan for myself.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that because, again, we can't see the full perspective. Like if you look at it, God's outside of space and time and kind of looking at like the timeline and all how the paths cross and everything. Like I can't even imagine what that looks like, but or visualize that in any way. But on Tolle Lege, our theology teacher or our philosophy teacher explained that even when you die, your impact still carries on. So, because we're talking about Judgment Day, and we were talking about, and this is kind of a very complex topic, but the fact that you can't fully be judged in the moment that you die because your impact is still going. The things that I said, even this podcast, right? It will still carry on. There will still be some impact that is made after I die, whether that's positive or negative, that I quote unquote should be judged on, right? And so that's where the no time applies to Him. He can see the future. Wait, it's not like he was he's at one point in time. No, he was at all points in time in history, right? And so that was really like, it broke my brain because, yeah, like when I get judged, I'm not only getting judged on my actions of that happened in my life, but also the impact that carries on past my life, which is just mind-blowing to me. Because something that I said to Jacob that may have hurt his feelings, he could go, because that hurt his feelings and made him feel bad and whatever, he could also go hurt someone else, and then that could carry on for years even, you know? Or if I say give someone a traumatic experience, right? That can carry on to their kids and their kids and their kids. And it's a cycle that will carry on past it. And that's just a hard thing to understand, but that puts the importance on patience of like Mr. Orm's favorite Bible verse, He must increase and I must decrease. Put it in perspective, you know, and not much wrong can go if you hold that standard. Um, but kind of switching. So we were talking about like patience with prayer and different things in life. I think even there's a certain point in Jesus's life that that patience was a hard thing for him. You look in the garden, right? He's like, God, take this cup from me. I don't want to do this, right? The same way in our lives, like God, like I just speed me through this. I just get me through. Like, how many times have we been through a brutal week of school and we're like, just God, get me through this as fast as possible, right? But really sitting through that, enduring the pain, enduring the suffering is what builds us up to be stronger in our faith. And that is based off of our patience to be able to sit in it as well. Which I feel like the Lord calls us to do more than we probably realize. It sometimes will always be like, oh, the Lord's calling me to go through this trial right now. Or maybe he's calling you to be patient, which causes you to suffer a little bit more and then leads to the good fruits, right?
He's also patient with us. I mean, for me, as I grew up, I was raised Catholic, so I was beginning to go closer to him. And I decided not to be for a while when I was down. He's like, all right, I'll wait for you to get where you need to be. And then here I am now, and I'm on the rise. He was patient for me. He waited for me. And I think that's just something that we have to realize, that he'll be patient with you no matter where you're at on your journey.
Yeah, it relates exactly to what I read this morning. Here's a trust in 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15. Here's a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. But for that very reason, I was shown mercy, so that in me, the worst of sinners, Christ Jesus might display his immense patience as an example for those who believe in him and receive eternal life. Like, I love that verse. Like, that was the most the Apostle Paul verse ever of I am the worst of sinners, which, to be honest, before he had his conversion, he was. You know what I mean? He was killing hundreds of Christians, right? But he admits, he did some of the most impactful things for our faith, and he still admits, I'm the worst of sinners. I don't deserve Christ. I don't deserve salvation. I don't deserve his forgiveness. But because of Christ's immense patience and seeing it through with me, that I'm given that. And it's just the way he words it was so beautifully to me. And like even when we were sinners, Christ still died for us. Like it's just it's a reminder that even in your shame, even in your guilt, even in your sin, that God is still seeking you out and pursuing you patiently. He's not gonna blow off this roof and be like, Nicholas, you need to stop sinning. Like, sometimes I wish that would happen. It'd be absolutely terrifying. Maybe get my act together, but he's not going to do that. He's patient with us in a loving way.
Oh no, for sure, and that's a great example. And there's like hundreds of more examples in the Bible. One of the things that just popped in my head was the story with Moses. Like, he had been a prince all his life, and suddenly this all changed for him, like, immediately. Like, it started with him like protecting slaves, and then it started with him then going off and running away, killing an Egyptian, doing all this other crazy stuff. And his life must have been it must have been crazy to be him, because he was taking so many turns and so many twists. He didn't know what to do with his life.
Yeah.
But he had the patience to trust in God. Like, he was like, I will do what you need me to do, and I will be patient in the moment.
Yeah.
Even facing Pharaoh face to face, like, he knew that he wasn't in danger because God was with him. He was patient in his time. I think it's very powerful to see all of those people to really put their trust in God and to be patient in the moment.
And what I love with that is because I totally like it this week. Every time you read the Bible, no matter where you are in the Bible, whether you're Genesis or Revelations, you need to put on your Christ lenses. How would Christ want me to read this, right? And when you're reading the Old Testament, some of the Old Testament stories, and you're looking for the deep meaning that Christ wants you to find, and it's that what you just said is exactly what Christ lays out in the New Testament and through the Gospels, of being like, hey, when you follow God, this ain't gonna be easy. This is gonna be harder than your life before, like Moses had to give up, right? And we see it time and time again in the New Testament, but But it is so much worth it, and the peace and the virtues that God brings onto you are very powerful and life changing. Because if they were not life changing, then these people would not have followed through with it. It would have been like, even when you look in our world where, you see someone catch fire for the Lord for a month or two, or even 6 months or a year, and then it piddles out, right? And then it's not even a part of their life anymore. But when it's that life changing, when it fully radically changes your life, you can see it, because it's like a complete different person. Like that old person of them, the things that they did, the things that they enjoyed, they don't enjoy anymore. They have a newfound peace, right? And I think like that's a perfect story, and that's the message that Christ is relaying to us throughout the whole story of the Bible. And it can be challenging. It can be challenging sometimes to give that up. I think I know in my own life, I always try and say, "Oh, that was like the old Nick or whatever." Like,
Sure.
but there's still that part of your heart that clings onto it, right? And we can debate whether that's, Satan or the enemy, trying to cling on to us and pull us back, or if it's just our own selfish desires or what it is, right? But I always still feel that clinging. That's why Paul writes, "I can't wait until I die. I can't wait till I'm away and I can just be in the presence of the Lord." Then it's easy, right? And I think in our lives, that is where we see the most challenges, is living our life with that patience when we have in America that immediate thing that we can do that can bring us gratification or whatever.
Yeah, you might even get angry because you want to do that one thing that everyone else is doing. You want to go out with your friends, but you know the right decision, and like you have to trust that decision, not going out that night or not hanging out with those people, is the right decision.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like it's especially true in like college. Like I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had to make decisions on whether to go hang out with friends or study homework. And the worst part is it comes down to like, shoot, I'm just gonna play on my phone, which is the worst option, but it always is the one picked, because it's like it always shoots something off in my brain. It's like, all right, this is just fun for me. But then 30, 40 minutes later, I put my phone down. I'm like, man, I spent all that time on something that, one, doesn't matter, two, that doesn't help me with anything else in my life, and three, I'm really not happy with it. Like, I was sure maybe I was happy during that 40 minutes while I was playing the game, but then I'm like, well, crap, everything has become harder now because of it. I didn't choose patience. I didn't choose to think about what was the end goal with doing that. And I lost, I mean, again, it was only 30, 40 minutes, but it felt like so much in the moment.
And I think like something I learned on retreat this week, how much we can do with our lives, and kind of how hard it is now in our generation, in our life, with our phones, with entertainment, all these different things in our life that we can go to and waste time on. Really, like you said, like I can go scroll on TikTok for 2 hours. It might make me a little happy, but I didn't get anything from it, really. Nothing that will be lasting. But, being with this theology teacher that studied theology for 15 years and knows literally like everything there is to know about theology, and us asking him questions and just him knowing the deepest things and revealing it to us, I was like, man, I wish I could be like that. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, that had to take so much work. And I asked him, I'm like, how did you get to this point? Every time I have free time, I read. Every time I'm like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's much more entertaining than go on TikTok. But you get through those 15 years of doing all that stuff, and now it's a habit, and now you find joy in it, and you're teaching others, and you're true in what you say, and you're more found in your faith. And it's like, wow, that he's, because of his steadfastness, right? He has seen the fruits of it in his life. And yeah, he could have indulged in whatever else, but he wouldn't be in the place that he was, and that he was supposed to be, making the impact on these different kids and these future priests and all these different things. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't be able to do that if he would have just been, quote unquote, impatient and just went to his phone or whatever. And And now I seek that, what he seeks, right? I'm like, I want to learn more. But in that, it's been a battle within my own head and heart and soul of like, but I still want to go on TikTok. You know what I mean? I still want to waste time, which is so silly when you say it like that, you know? But it's a struggle that everyone deals with in our day and age, especially now that we've grown up with it our whole entire life. It's ingrained in us.
Oh yeah, for sure. You said he spent like 15 years working this way all the way up. Like, I can't imagine the level of like perseverance and patience he had to do to not just like continue on his path, but to just flat out say, or to not say that he's gonna stop. Like, he literally said, no matter how long it takes, I'm gonna get through this and I'm gonna reach my goal. And like, that's exactly what I think that part of this patience embodies, because like, I think our end goal is to get to heaven, but it's going to take so long to get there. Are we willing to put in our effort and our time and our attitude together in order to get there? I think that's like a big thing.
Yeah. And something that was eye-opening for me, Ashton, if I told you that I prayed for 2 hours today, would you think that's like a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say that to anyone, or anyone says that to me, I'm like, dang, dude, like, okay, good for you today. Like, that's awesome, man. Well, you know, going through and being at the seminary for a week, I learned that priests and seminarians and all of the such pray for at minimum of 4 hours a day. And it made me realize the dedication that they have. And then in our own lives on that retreat, we pray for basically at a minimum of 2 hours a day. And it didn't feel like a lot. Now, obviously, we're more of a setting to do that. But then it made me realize, how much better off will I be prepared for eternity if I am praying for multiple hours of a day? If I'm seeking the Lord at multiple hours of a day, right? Because if you have eternity with God and you can't spend even 5 minutes with him on this earth, then that might be kind of a shocking moment, right? It might, so that might be like a shocking revelation to you of like, oh shoot, I need to get my act together, because if I can't spend 5 minutes with him here on this earth, then how am I going to spend eternity praising and worshiping him and enjoying his fruits in heaven, right? If I can't enjoy that now, when we have a slight taste of it, right? And for me, it was such a realization, because I came back from the retreat, and now, you know, I have the free time to go on my phone, go on TikTok, and that's what I did, because that's what, you know, and I went on TikTok, and literally after a minute and a half, I'm like, I hate this. I go off TikTok, and I went and prayed for, you know, the liturgy of the hours for the night, which I didn't like at the beginning of the week for the retreat. By the end but now I'm like, okay, I just want to spend time with the Lord. I don't care if I'm reading a prayer or, you know, reading the Bible. I just want to, because this is not fulfilling me, right? And as I ease back into, you know, kind of our world, right, it's going to get harder. I'm not going to have as much of that desire because I'm distracted, right? But the principle is still there. I should be spending lots of time every single day with the Lord, because how do I expect to go through eternity if I can't do it now, you know?
Yeah. And then another thing to go along with patience, I think, is persistence, right? If you have a goal that you want to go to, so our end goal is heaven, we need all these steps and habits that we should do every day to get to that goal. And some of us do that in our own lives, but with different things. Like Ashton, you play baseball. So you probably do these things every day. You lift, you go, you study the game to get to your end goal, which would probably be what, the MLB is what you would want to do, or college baseball.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what he's going to do to get there. For us, that could be that praying 2 hours, or praying even at all to get us to that end goal. And that persistence in those habits. It takes, 2 days, 3 days to form a habit?
Yeah.
And if we could just set out that time and that patience, and along with the persistence to do that, I think we can reach that end goal.
Yeah, and they, like you said, they go together, because those first few days, it's going to be like, oh, this is really hard to do. You know what I mean? Like even with working out, it's like, I just like, oh, I don't really want to today. I'm sore, my body hurts, whatever. Like, that's where I learned, again, on this retreat, your emotions are liars, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many times that, oh, I'm really tired right now, Lord. I don't really want to pray. Like, I could just go to bed. No, if I spend 20 more minutes with the Lord, even if my heart doesn't feel like it's in it, even if my soul and mind and everything feels like, oh, like I don't even enjoy this, I still spent 20 minutes with the Lord, and those fruits will be revealed in my life, right? 20 minutes with the Lord is better than anything else we will do in this life, even if your emotions aren't in it. And that's where we have to realize that our emotions can be changed by the enemy, right? And so to me, taking that step back, realizing, okay, let me not listen to my emotions. When I wake up at the beginning of the day, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I kind of just want to scroll on my phone for 30 minutes before I get up. And no, let me pray to the Lord, because that will actually have fruits of it, even though my emotions aren't in it.
There's seven main ones. Like you have four.
There's
Three theological and four cardinal.
yeah, something like that. But then like even that expands upon like even those like virtues in itself, right, aren't everything that encompasses like everything that's around us. Because like I remember like I know specifically some of those virtues don't include like effort and attitude, and one of my biggest things is like I always like to go throughout the day as those two as like my kind of ones I like to look on, because like from a young age I was always told like the two things you can always like change in life, or you can always dictate in life, are like your effort and your attitude. Like whether it's playing sports, whether it's doing schoolwork, whether it's just living life and talking to people, like your effort to like go out to people and your attitude towards them will really change your interactions with people. And not just that, it will change your interactions with God as well. It's like, even if you're not willing, like even like your attitude might not be there in prayer, right? But if you have the effort to take the time out of your day, your attitude will change with it. It's like they go kind of hand in hand, which I really enjoy.
Yeah. My thought came back to me. I think when you look at patience, and you start to give your life over to the Lord, and we talked about how it changes your life radically, right? When there's a patience and there's kind of an understanding, because for me, before I had the Lord in my life, before I truly started turning to Him every day, my life was more clear. Like I had my own vision of how my life would go, and it felt like that would happen, right? I had a lot of control over that. If I stuck the path that I was going on, it would be like that. There wasn't really a need for God, right? But then once, life got a little bit harder, and still that path was still the same for me, then I turned to God and everything changes, right? And so now over the course of the past 4 or 5 years, my desire, passion each year changes every single year, which can be a frustrating thing. You dive so far deep into one thing, and then it radically changes the next year, and now you have to dive all the way down deep into that. And it's like, Lord, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, let me focus on one thing. Give me something that I'm like that you really call me to. But then having the patience to go down each one of them, and then realizing that God is just building the fruits to make that beautiful tree, right? To make that that thing that offers life to others, right? And so it might be confusing. For me, I really struggle with it, of like, Lord, like my own way felt like more clear. But now your way, it's like I'm here, then I'm there, and then I'm there, and then I'm there, and it doesn't make sense. It's like zigzag, zigzag, not a straight line at all. But then if I have the patience, I may realize 10 years from now the purpose of all those zigzags, and really it was just a straight line, but not my straight line,
Okay.
Going back to what you said about effort and attitude, I don't know if you guys see it, but like if someone comes up to you and like asks about your day, like that's like something that you enjoy and like makes you feel better about that person, compared to someone who comes up to you and like you ask them about their day and like they give you a bland response.
Yeah.
As someone, like I used to be that person that would be completely like out of it, wouldn't be nice to anyone, like would just go away with my day. But then as I realized that isn't the person I want to become. So my like big thing, like yours, is just be kind to someone every single step of the way. And like if you show that you're happy, maybe that person that's having a bad day will become happy, or like will be like, wow, that person's happy. maybe I should like change my attitude throughout the day.
Yeah, and then going along with that, usually when you look at somebody who's talented, right, you have to have a good attitude and good effort. There's nobody who's just talented with faith, right? You have to work your way up. You have to have a good attitude and a good effort towards making your faith better. And I think that's one of the things that's great with it, because you have to work on it. You have to want it for yourself to get to the gates ahead.
And I think that stems off of like that sort of confidence and fortitude, like the confidence that you have in yourself and that you're willing to show to others, like it's infectious.
Yeah.
I think like when you're confident with like that you are following God and that you are truly being a disciple of him and you are excited to be a disciple, other people see it and encourages them to do the same, because they're like, wow, I could be like them, or I could do just as much as they can, and look how happy they are because of it. I think it really is like a contagious thing for other people, especially new coming people.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Jacob, I want to ask you, because again, in my life, when I look at some of the people, like you said, you display effort and attitude, controlling that. You display that way better than me. Like you know me, when I'm in pickleball and it's not going my way, I'm not a happy person.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but you seem to always be pretty controlled with that. What helps you? What big lessons or anything that's helped you become that person that's stable in those?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing in my life has been my parents. I think they have been very influential on me, and they've always shown me that like no matter what the problem is, there's always a solution. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that solution, there's like barriers you have to get through, right? And one of the biggest things was that when I was growing up, I did martial arts when I was young. And I would go 2 or 3 times a week to practice or whatnot. And every time I would go, I'd always dread it. I'd always like, I'd love to do it for the first, I don't know, half a year or so. But then after a while, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here, yada, 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 whatnot, right? But when I eventually got there and I eventually started doing the stuff that I enjoyed, it made me realize it's like, wow, if I'm just controlled, if I'm just patient, if I'm just willing to get through the hurdles and the walls that are going to the end goal, it shows that like it's so much so worth it. Like even coming here today, like I woke up this morning, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make myself some breakfast. Then I hopped in the shower, and then I was thinking to myself, like, do I really want to go? Do I really want to like talk in front of like all these people and whatnot? And it started like playing back in my head. And then I sat on my bed and I was thinking about it, and then I looked at the time, and then you texted me, and I'm like, okay, I gotta suck it up and I gotta go. And in the moment I was like, all right, I just need to get this over with. But then now that I'm here, I realized I worried for nothing. Mm-hmm. I was so fed up on trying to make a good appearance and making sure that I didn't do whatever I did or whatnot. And now I'm realizing I'm just enjoying being here and talking with you guys. Yeah. It really is a treat. Mm-hmm. And I thank you guys for inviting me. It's been a ton of fun so far. Mm-hmm. And it's made me realize that like all of the things in life that we do, right, always has an end goal, and it's our decision if we want to be patient or not with it. So that's what I keep telling myself every time I'm in a situation where I'm frustrated or I'm angry or I'm indecisive. I'm just like, deep breath and just see what the first thing is. Yeah. That's kind of my thought behind how I tackle these issues and how I sometimes keep my composure. Now it doesn't happen all the time. I'm not perfect by any means.
Yeah. I think that was cool when you talked about how you were like, oh, maybe I won't come here or whatever. I feel like we dread a lot of the things that what we're going to do, but then as soon as we go to do it, we enjoy it so much. Mm-hmm. Like even just praying, like we'll dread doing it, but then we go to adoration, we just was like, that was the best moment of my life.
Oh, for sure.
And then just doing that and all is,
yeah, No, I understand. Agree. Like, going back to the prayer thing. Like Josh, one of the seminarians, talked about his best prayers are when he doesn't want to. You know what I mean? Because then you go in there and then it's like bang. You know, like, oh, I really needed this actually. In the same way, like, for anyone that's known me since, like, especially during my freshman year of high school, I was the most anxious person alive. Middle school I couldn't, when I go to hang out with people or go to a different social event or football games or whatever, I'd be literally like freaking out, feeling like I'm about to die, like having like a full-on panic attack. And it always bothered me because I'm like, I know this is going to be fun. I know this is going to be good. Why am I like so worried? You know what I mean? I can't even tell you why I'm worried, but my body was reacting like that. And so eventually, you know, you do it so much, you go through these different things that you just tell yourself, your body, remind your body, like, hey, every time I do something along these lines, it goes well. You know, or every time I could do something along these lines, it doesn't go so well. And that's where this patience is. It's really about patience is kind of a building up of time of different experiences, and that you know, gets implemented into your life later on. Like you said, like all the stuff that you learned from a younger age has now just been implemented into your natural life. And now those fruits, now that weren't easy to gain back then, but those fruits are playing out in your life now in such a beautiful way that you wouldn't change it. You wouldn't be like, everyone is like, I wouldn't go back and change anything time. And it's true because they realize how it plays out.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't go back and now it would be hard. I won't lie. It would be hard to do it again, but I wouldn't say no. Even if it was hard, I wouldn't say no, because that was one of the most impactful moments of my life. Like every part of my life has had meaning to it, and that stretch of 2 to 3, maybe even 4 years was very impactful for me.
Yeah. And I know we've probably all experienced this in some way. Everyone has had like a friend or known someone that's gone through like a very hard breakup or hard situation, or whether the family member died or they got, you know, cheated on or something, real family member divorce, something, whatever, right? Something that's really hard. And you ask that person that went through that super hard time, whether, like, I know a few people that have gone through super, super hard breakups, super hard situations, and they're like, would you change anything if you went back in time? And they're like, they sit there for a second and they're like, no, you know, because that pain and suffering and the different fruits of it, which might feel like earth shattering in the moment, they know are still beneficial to them because it helps them learn from the future. Like I believe every situation that's happened in my past has built me up for this moment so that I can be prepared, so I can do something like this with you guys. And, or even, you know, if you look at even a relationship sense, right? If the moments I suffered in the past were to help me learn so that I could find my person, right? Then I will do that over and over again. You know what I mean? I would gladly do that, you know, even though it sucked, like unbelievably sucked when I was in that moment. But the one thing I want to ask, where's one point, and we can just round robin, what's one point in your life that you think you do really well at in showing patience, in one aspect of your life you feel like you need to work on showing patience?
I'll start. My best is with sports.
Okay.
Where freshman year I thought I should have been on varsity. I was playing my mind out. I was doing really good. Sophomore year I got hurt. Very inconvenient. Had to sit the bench. Had to watch everyone succeed. Then it all led up to this year, probably my best year of baseball. And now I'm sidelined again from an injury. But it's just like, I know that if I'm ready to play my senior year, I'm ready. And then something I need to work on with patience is just school and praying. Like if I sometimes would pray for something and I don't see it right away, so I'll get frustrated and I'll stop praying for that one thing, when in reality I should probably keep praying for that same thing or maybe something different.
For me, I would say my patience is just not giving up. Like if I do something bad, I'm just going to keep going and doing it. Just so I can be good at it. Like, I hate being bad at things, and I hate not succeeding. Something I need to work on is just actually doing those things. Like making it a habit. Like, I'll pray for a ton one day and then just not for a week. Like, I just need to keep praying every single day, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and so on. I just need to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with me. The things I need to work on is consistency. There are a lot of times in my life where I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this thing, this thing, this thing. 1 week later, they're all gone. So consistency, I think, is the biggest thing for me I need to work on. Something that I do well at, I think I do okay with patience, specifically with my girlfriend. I won't lie. It is difficult. It's never easy. But there are some times where I understand that her needs are vastly more important than mine, and that isn't always the case. But when it is that way, I always try to take the time to look at it and say, all right, I'm doing this for her, not for me, for her, because she needs it more than me. And I can apply that same thing with God. I think I'm better with my girlfriend at it than I am with God, unfortunately. But I can do the same thing with God. Like, God's desires for me, I should see that as greater than my desires for myself. And I think that's something I could also improve on.
I think for me, I've shown a decent amount of patience with my faith life before Tole, and for a while I really wasn't feeling like, again, those motions were not there. And I think we've all been at a point in faith where you don't feel it. You don't feel those feel good Jesus feelings. And those are the hard moments to, like, still sit down and read, still sit down and pray. And to be honest, most of my prayers are like, Lord, why don't I? Well, give me something. I will stay steadfast to you, but I need you to help me out here. And then eventually he does, right? And that's, I've kind of a little bit of a revival from this past retreat. But I think somewhere that used to be that I was really good at, but now I'm a little bit lacking of, is in my friendships, is staying steadfast in my friendships. Being patient with my friendships. There's a lot of people, it's because it comes from a good place. I swear it does. But I want them to come to God just a little bit faster. You know what I mean? I want them to see the light a little bit faster, because I know the love and beauty and the great fruits that will come of them being close with God, right? If they just accept it, right? But I also have to realize and have the patience to realize that, hey, it takes time. It's going to take patience on their end and on my end too, for them to get to the point where they need to be, right? And like, there's just so many people that I can think about in my life that it's taken 2 to 3 years. That a seed that was planted my freshman year of high school, now they're coming and it's starting to sprout now. Like, that's crazy. And that takes an immense amount of patience. And in that moment, like freshman year, I'm like, oh, if only they would, understand. But now it's like, oh, okay, God was working on it, And so I think that's where I struggle, is with the friendships. Because, again, I think we all have, quote unquote, unfaithful friends, right? That where it's not important to them. And you're like, they come to you maybe with an issue or whatever, and you're like, oh, if you just gave it up, you know what I mean? If you just turn to the Lord, you could see the beauty there. You could see the other side that would be so much more beautiful for you. And I think that's where I struggle with and need to improve on, And I like what Jacob said about how he feels like he does it better with his girlfriend than God.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish there was a good balance, but I still need to work on it.
Because I think it's the same. Like, again, for me, I can go back and say, for my faithful friends or whatever, for like Noah, Jacob, you guys, like Thomas, anyone else, they text me, hey, let's call about faith. I'm on that phone immediately, right? And I can sit there and talk with them for hours about it. But then when I feel like the Lord's calling me to prayer and I'm tired, or I just woke up, or I'm in the middle of something, I'm like, I'm not on the phone. I'm not going to you right away. And that's where it's like, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because it's person to person, actually voice to voice. But that's where I also see it in my life too. It's like, it's so much easier to talk to you guys about faith than for me to sit down and read some ancient theology thing. It's just easier and it's more enjoyable. And I'm not saying that this isn't good. This is fantastic, but this isn't everything of our faith. There's so much more to it. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, you know.
Oh, for sure. For sure it is harder sometimes. Yeah, there are many times where it's I would like to do my faith this way, and this way, but I don't want to do it this way, and this way.
Yeah.
But then I realize, shoot, the last couple of things are actually things that I need more of rather than less of. So it's like, maybe I should focus on a full compass, a broader view of what I should be doing in my faith life.
Yeah, 100%. Because, like, you know, Jake, we know you played basketball in high school for St. PM. Like, if you know, like, say, like, what would you say your strong suits were?
Oh gosh, there's very limited skill set. Probably defense, and that's probably it.
So your defense,
I won't lie.
Defense, you were on it with your defense. But imagine if you just only trained your defense for the rest of high school. Like, you wouldn't have been, like, your defense was already pretty good. So nope. Well, you know, it could always get better. But if you're not training your shooting, passing, you know, court vision, all this different stuff, then you're not going to become the well-rounded player. You're not going to get more playing time. You're not going to make your way up. You're not going to make your way to the NBA, right?
Not even close.
Yeah, but the same way for us, it's like, if I'm not focusing on all the different parts of my faith life, I'm not going to progress in my faith life. And unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be as close to Jesus as I need to be, which means there's a chance I might not make it to heaven, you know? And it's like, okay, I need to make it to the big leagues. I want to make it to the big leagues. How do I get there? It's by doing those things, or doing the things that you necessarily don't want to do, right? Becoming a full compass faith player to get to heaven. You know, we want all full compass, or we want our team in heaven to be, you know, I don't want to say overpowered, but overpowered by, like, full faith people. You know, if I come into heaven, it's like, you know, I kind of feel worse about myself if I come into heaven, all these guys that were like all the apostles and all these guys that are super good at prayer and meditating, all these different things of faith, you know, reading scripture, learning, and I come up and I'm like, yeah, I just talk to my friends about faith a lot, like, and they're like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the vision. I want to be that full faith player like them, you know? And I think that motivates me especially when you don't want to, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it comes back to the patience and perseverance, like you mentioned. It wraps things up perfectly. Like, you have this goal, you got to be patient with it. You got to stay consistent. You got to be confident with it. And then if you have all of those, you're going to reach it in the end.
Yeah. 100% agree. I got another one for you. How in your faith life have you had to display patience in college?
Display patience in college. Okay. Well, I could go with an obvious answer and say, oh, my schoolwork and whatnot. But I think on a different level, at Ohio State, I play for the local Catholic church. I play the music and I sing there quite regularly on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And they also invite the choir members to do like concerts, like Christmas concerts and Easter concerts, stuff like that throughout the year. And there's a lot of extra time and extra practice that goes into it, and the music is much more complicated than what I would normally sing on Sunday. Saying that, the level of patience I've needed, or I've had to give I've had to, like, look inside myself for has been huge in that I can't tell you the number of times I've been frustrated with going there. I didn't want to go there, or I said, hey, look, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to put the time and the effort. I'm already doing so many other things. But then I keep, then Sunday comes, or whenever the practice days come, and I make my way over there, and it doesn't come back into my mind that I want to go back, or it doesn't pop into my mind that I don't want to go.
Yeah.
It just happens. I just I get up, take a shower, grab my instrument, and go. I obviously I'm feeling uneasy about it, but there's no moment in that where it's like, all right, I'm just not gonna hop on the elevator to go down.
Yeah.
I'm always going, and that continuous perseverance of getting in the elevator and going down or wherever it is really helps me build the patience for the coming weeks that come, because then it's like, all right, I know that it's this far away, I know that it's this many weeks along, I just have to get through this week, and then this week, and then the next week. But I don't think about those weeks until I get there.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I just have to get through one more week. End of the week comes, one more week.
Yep.
One more week. And that's all I think about. And I think it really helps drive me to finish off whatever I end up doing, whether it's at church playing music, whether it's doing homework, whether it's hanging out with friends, or whether it's even with you guys. Like, it really all comes down to, I think it's like being patient and not looking forward and just looking in the moment.
Yeah.
Even if it's day by day.
Yeah. I love that, because I think we've all been there. And like, for me, like those last few weeks of school, it's like, okay, if I get through this week, then we kind of got to we got like a 1:30 dismissal on Wednesday. So if I get through that week, and then, yeah, it always feels like a grind, to the point where your mind's like, all right, dude, I'm not tricked by this anymore. But I love that attitude, because I think that's very relatable. And I kind of want to take it like a perspective that was put in my mind. I had a conversation with my dad a few weeks ago, and he talks to me about one of the hardest jobs as a parent, and you can apply this to God as well, is sitting there and having to watch your child do something that you know will not be beneficial to them, and watching them have to fail in it so that they will have to learn, and not interfering with it. Or if you try to interfere with it, that they still go down that path, And he's like, that's the hardest thing as a parent. It's like, I know this won't be good for you, or I know there's probably a better option, but I have to let you go down there because you got to learn, right? Now, obviously, you should have guide rails. Don't let them go off the map. You don't want that going on either. But you do have to give them a sense of learning and free will, right? So that they can become their own person and learn things. Because, my brother, when I went to high school, he's always like, here, I'm going to tell you everything I think, and you're going to listen to it. He's like, but you're probably not going to actually live any of it out. And then you're going to live it out. And then you're going to be like, you're right. And that's the amount of times that happened to me is like, it makes me embarrassed, because like every time I come back to him, I don't want to tell him he's right, but he was right, And it's not even a matter of right or wrong. It's just that, okay, God the Father with us, he has to let us go through some things. He's not going to take off the roof. He's not going to stop us from doing it sometimes, because he sees the vision, and because he knows that it ultimately will lead us back to him, right? And we would love to change it. We would love to be like, Lord, rip the roof off, take me up to heaven right now. Like, make me never sin again. And he's like, no, you need to become that full faith player. You need to learn this on your own. You need to want me on your own. And I think that's such a cool parallel with our parents as well. The same way, like, I need to want my parents on my own. They can't force me to love them. And I think that's a interesting perspective. Any final points?
No, like I said, I just want to thank you guys for letting me
you.
come and talk with you. It's been enjoying. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Good. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
I've been wanting. I've talked to you. The first time I talked to you about it was like Christmas,
Yeah,
I was
it
like, dude, you
only
gotta
took
come-
6 months.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, eventually, and so we're very blessed to have you on. You're one of the best people in my life that displays faith in action, because it's not easy to do. Like I always say this to them. I come up here and talk all this talk, and then I go live a completely different life and feel like the biggest hypocrite in the world, and I dig on myself too much. But Jacob, he talks about it and lives it. And I'm not saying you're perfect and you don't fail sometimes, but for me, it's a way to look at someone and learn from someone. And so I really valued the conversation. But yeah, so Jacob, you want to give us one big clap to finish us off?
Of course.
Thank you.